Hello, and welcome everyone. Recording in progress. I have to click OK for the powers of Zoom. It's wonderful to see you again on this Solstice Day, on the Peace and Prayer Day. Inviting you, as always, to put in the chat where you are from, where you're sitting on Earth now, and maybe the journey of where you were born and how you got to where you are, really briefly, so we know who is here and where are we spread and on the globe. I will put mine on and inviting everyone to tell us, where are you? Isle of Wight, hi Vav, hi Catherine from Australia. Tasha, hello from LA, not far from me. Hi Shelley, in Northern Indiana. Macedonia, hi. Helen, in Alberta. Hi Sarah in UK. Hi Helena. Oh wow, now it's getting very fast. Hi Lisa. Hi Lynette in Australia, Copenhagen, Denmark, Southwest, where? Arizona, Atlanta, south of the Isle of Wight. Mary, hi. I'll give it another moment. Anyone that wants to say where you're from, it would be nice to hear more. Hi, Carol in California. Land of the Ohlone. Another moment. Bath, England. Hi, Elena in Glastonbury. And from Rome in Italy as well. Nice. So we are spread far and wide. We are activating the grid across the globe. And I'm gonna pass it over to you, Yael, also to say hello to Kat and Patricia in the US and southwestern US. All right, welcome one and all. Over to you, Yael.
Thank you so much, DeAnna. It does not let me record or live stream today, which is very interesting.
We're recording.
We're recording?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're recording, at least that. But it does not let me live stream. So already this is interesting. And today we're going to do a very or slightly different format where our wisdom keepers are going to create the initial ripple as we always do, but then we won't go into breakout rooms, but we will stay in this public circle. And those of you who feel the circle wants to do the talking through them, will raise your hand either virtually or physically, and we'll have you create the second ripple as much as time will allow, because as we know, we are human and time and attention are limited, which is a part of our guidelines for this circle. And this circle is special because it is dedicated to one of our initial elders when we started these circles. And before that, with GISIL, the Global Center for Indigenous Leadership and Lifeways, Elder Susanne Swibold was one of the pillars. And she passed, she transitioned to the unseen world. And we have Helen, her dear closest friend, with us to help us dedicate the circle to her. So we will start with the guidelines, prayer, meditation, dedication, and then the circle. So
Yael, before you continue, I have a WhatsApp from Eva, one of our speakers, who is waiting to be let in the waiting room.
okay. So Laura, if you can let Eva in, and I will read the guidelines.
Yael.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
We don't have anyone in the waiting room, which makes me think maybe Eva has a different link.
Oh, okay. Strange.
I'll go look and see if I can
Then
bring
can you WhatsApp that with her?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry everyone. So we will read the guidelines because this is the first guideline is that the host always sets the table, just like in a meal. So even if we all know where the dishes are, we still set the table and know when and where we're gathering and around what. This circle, we are asked to look at the question, how do we trace our truth even in the midst of conflict? How do we embody our truth in the face of challenge? How do we stand in our truth even when disbelieved or threatened in a conflict? So our wisdom keepers will talk to this from their different traditions, ancient traditions, and also from their lived experiences. We will have 4 minutes roughly for each to share, and we will set the guidelines of the circle. So the reason we are doing these circles is that here in Alaska, the ancient traditions and also in other indigenous traditions in the world say that when women come together in true sisterhood, connect to the womb inside and around us, and then collectively, ceremonially, put that energy beyond ourselves, a sacred container will be formed for something truly new to possibly start to exist in us and maybe birthed into the world. And this is needed for humanity to have a future. So this is why we do these circles. And the way we do it is by listening as deep as the womb. Because in this talking circle, we are not here to do the talking, but the listening as the circle does the talking. We're asking to listen with the innocence of a child hearing something for the first time. We ask to be respectful. Respect yourself, your other selves, here in the circle and beyond. And sometimes the easiest way is just to not mention names, so you know you're speaking just for you. I know I'm speaking just for myself and not on behalf of someone else who may have been in the situation with me, and their truth can be totally different. We need to respect time and attention. This is a potluck of stories, of truths. Let the stories be offered side by side next to another story. And even if something does not nourish you, just, don't take it in, but leave it there for someone else might be nourished by it. Or maybe just a sentence. You can pick some things that are right for you. You don't have to take in everything, but please allow for it to be in this shared space. We want to be free. Let's free ourselves and our other selves from judgment, arguing, or planning responses. We're asked to come without agenda, titles, assumptions. Listen without trying to advise or teach or advertise, but just to let the circle do the talking that it needs to do. Spontaneously and alive, like the womb. It cycles, and it's like we've been here before. The bleeding is here again. The ovulation is here again. But then every ovule, every egg is different. And so this circle, let's see what it brings. Oftentimes you'll hear someone say something that you thought. You don't need to re-say it. This will happen a lot in the circle because the circle is doing the talking through different mouths. And again, if the circle has already spoken to something, maybe you don't need to say it, but maybe also the words are ripening in you and you feel your belly wanting to speak to something. Let the thing come through you, please, generously, as long as you're able to also be respectful to yourself while doing that. Speak your truth through your own lived experience, not something borrowed or that you heard from someone that they experienced, but something that is actually alive in you. Let us expand like the womb does, even when it's uncomfortable, even when there's different truths and contradictions, just like our womb can contain nausea and hunger at the same time, or two hearts at the same time. And please respect the here and now of the circle. When things are not recorded, then we ask for confidentiality. This is recorded, but there are things that are right for the here and now, and maybe people won't want to discuss them later. So if you meet someone from here and you want to keep a discussion about something that came up, ask permission. Ask permission from the one you want to discuss it with, and if you're mentioning someone else, you need to ask permission. And if you can't reach the person or you don't know, then don't, because we don't continue without permission. So thank you for being here with us. And now for a few seconds, we'll give a chance for anyone who might have additions or edits to what we just laid out, because we need to continue when everybody is safe and aligned. Please put in the chat if you have anything. Okay, and with that, we can open. Catherine, if you can take us with the opening blessing, please.
Kia ora, Yael. Kia ora, hello everybody. It's morning here in Aotearoa, but greetings to you whatever time of the day or night it might be for you. Just a short prayer invocation. We call it a karakia. I'll give it in our native tongue, which is Māori. We're here in Aotearoa in the South Pacific, and then I'll give a bit of an interpretation so everyone understands the meaning. Kia tau ngā manaakitanga a te mea ngaro, ki runga ki tēnā o tātou. Kia mahia te hua mākihikihi, kia toi te kupu, toi te mana, toi te aroha. Tūturu o whiti whakamaua kia tīna, haumi e hui e, tae ki e. Let the care and protection of our ancestors be with each and every one of us, freeing our path from obstruction so that our words, our authority, and our love is permanently fixed and established. Let us unite and gather together. And so it is. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Catherine. And with that, DeAnna, if you can take us into the womb.
I think we would like Helen to dedicate the circle.
Helen requested that you help us go into the womb, and she will dedicate it from there.
Okay,
if that's
all right,
okay.
I understand. All right, so inviting us to kindle the light inside, to close our eyes, and to find the flame inside. Let's breathe out anything that doesn't belong to this moment. And breathe in the freshness of this precious moment right now. Let's take a couple of more breaths in together deeply. Inviting us to place both our palms on our heart. Feel the beat of Mother Earth in your own heartbeat. If you have a womb in this physical life, put one arm, lower it down to your womb and keep one on your heart. And breathe. We're looking at truth today and we're tracing truth. Any truth is conceived within us. There's no truth that comes from the outside. In our heart, in our womb, be it a new life, a new vision, an insight, a dream, a project, anything that sprouts in our womb, in our heart. We trace all our truth inward, inviting us to sink into the heart and the womb and see what is nestled there, what is conceived there, what is about to grow in there, in this moment. What is a truth that's not yet out in the world, that's not yet fully grown, that's not yet really ready to be born, that grows in our depths. Look for it in your depths. Trace it. That which is sprouting in our depths, in our womb, in our heart, is what will come out of us as a truth of our own into the world. And like any child that we conceive and carry and birth, we will protect it against all odds, for it was born within ourselves. Speak some words of comfort to the truth in your depths, letting it know you're dedicated to listen, to be in tune, to stay true to the truth growing inside of you. And ask it, what does it have to say to you in this moment? Your truth, let it whisper in your ear and listen. The path forward might be open or might be challenged, but the truth is between you and yourself, among you and your heart, among you and your womb, originates from your depth. When it's ready, you will release it into the world. And more truth will come. And more truth will be born of you. And more truth will live from your depths in the world. And so it is. Bless the truth that's in your depths now, releasing any expectations of when might it be coming out into the world. Just allowing it to be. And begin to return to this moment of consciousness, to this present moment in the chair you're embodying your body on right now. Allow your palms to either stay where they are or move where you feel comfortable placing them. Allow the world around you to begin to enter your consciousness, while there is the secret truth within you, your depth is holding it. There is a world around you. Allow it in. Bring yourself more and more into the present moment. And when you are ready, allow your eyes to gently open.
Thank you, DeAnna. Thank you so much. And June 21st is also World Peace and Prayer Day, as was declared by Chief Arvo Looking Horse in the 90s. And one of our greatest warriors of peace was Susanne. And so, Helen, over to you to dedicate it to her, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your prayer, Catherine, for Deanna's beautiful meditation. I'm so honored to be here. Didn't know if I could get it together, and anybody who was just on the Confluence call, forgive me if I'm repeating. Susanne Swibold is a force. She's still roaming around. I know she's yelling at me to get a camera because she likes the views where she's landed. And she had just a massive curiosity, and all of our talks that we did with wisdom weavers and wombs of peace and so on, you would always see her behind this chair with at least three, maybe four whale vertebrae. And they were bones that she dragged back from probably the Pribilof Islands or in Alaska or the Commander Islands in Russia. She loved form. She loved all of creation. She loved the land, and she loved birds, animals, and her truth was very compelling. She spoke with such conviction. And it's interesting that I ended up with her probably met her in 1979 and traveled all over the world as a filmmaker with her. And she was my partner. Until I just had had enough and left in 1999 and went on to do other things. But she always prayed I would come back, and she knew I would come back, and I knew I would never come back. But she was so full of love and certainty that the Holy One would bring me back to her. And how it happened was in Kauai, where we were at the first Wisdom Weavers gathering, and she said, "Helen, there's a plane ticket for you to go." I lived in another city. I was like, "What? I'm not going." But I did go, and I'm so happy I went because life and the spirit do things that you don't have any clue about. And so we went together, and I don't know if any of you here were there, but she brought her honorary grandson, and I was appalled that she would ask at the last minute to involve him to come from Canada. So he came, and so ever since, the three of us have been so bonded by that holy experience that we had that was magical. We got back, I went back to my city, continued my life, and Suzanne's heart wasn't good, so she needed emergency surgery to heal her valves. And so that's how I was like, okay, I'll just step in to help her recover. Then the next year, 6 months later, she needed a new hip. okay, I'll just hang in there. And lo and behold, it turned into 8 years of me kind of just relinquishing my home in another city and staying with her. And it was a long journey. And the last 2 years of it were difficult because she had developed dementia and her memory wasn't the same. But she was still Suzanne. She was still all knowing, all certain, and following the light. She followed the light. And so I just wanted to dedicate this to her memory of, I don't know if any of you were here during her talks. They were mainly wisdom weavers, but I know, Yael, that you had her on Wombs of Peace. And she would say things like she never let her truth stop her from saying something. And I don't know if any of you remembered, she would always pray for Trump. And you could see people like shuddering, and she would say, love is everything. We must love him. Maybe this was during his first term, because by the time he was reelected, she didn't really remember. So, which was just perfect. Because after a while, she wasn't like always saying, love Trump. But that was her thing. And so, I'm wrestling with writing an obituary that really honors her because she had such wide, diverse interests. In paleontology, there's the oldest bird footprints in the world are named after her because, of course, she discovered them in a museum nearby. All of her whale bones have been taken away to a museum on the northern tip of Vancouver Island. She had a massive connection to Stonehenge. So the fact that she decided to fly away around Solstice, it does seems like perfect to me because today, and I noticed Glastonbury is coming up in our chat here of there's at least one person who's from that area. But Suzanne, as a young university teacher, she taught art. She would go usually to Europe every summer, and I think all she needed was her plane ticket because she just hitchhiked everywhere and she just had to feed herself so she could make $100 stretch into a month. And so she went to Stonehenge. Oh, it was in the 60s, the first time she went. There was no fence around it in those days, but there was a warden's cottage. And she and her friend, whoever she was traveling with, long before I knew her, they landed at Stonehenge and they decided they were going to throw their sleeping bags down on the stones and sleep there overnight. But they first checked in with the warden to make sure it was okay. And when they went over there, they knocked on the door and somebody answered and said, "Are you American? Come in, come in, come in. Like they've landed on the moon." So it was the first landing on the moon was, Neil Armstrong was stepping down. And remember that line, the eagle has landed? That just came up in our previous Zoom call, how that is so indigenous. There's a whole story around that. So they were so thrilled that these Americans were there and they were gonna, and he said, of course you can sleep on the stones. So, and then she was so taken with these sacred sites that she came back and did a show at the big Contemporary Art Museum in Montreal. It was a solo show. She did blow-ups of Stonehenge that you could walk around, you could move them. She was very connected with modern dance groups. And so they also would dance around this mobile Stonehenge. I've got a little miniature of it here that we just found in the attic. And so all of this to me is just a beautiful connection of the passage of time, the beauty of the earth, this magical human who came and blessed us with her truth, with her light. She's flying around somewhere. I don't know. There's things I'd like to tell her now because I can't believe she actually has gone to another dimension. But I so hope she's with Ia because they loved each other. And Ia said, I know you've got black blood. Do you remember when Susanne would say that? I have black blood. And so they have to be together and like flooding the universe with their benevolence and their wisdom. So thank you all for allowing me to dedicate this to our wonderful friend, my love. I did come back, and I'm so happy I did. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you, Helen. Thank you, thank you. Oh, yeah. I'm I could see she was a good friend of MLK, and Ia was a Black Panther, but she never got to meet him in person. So I'm kind of feeling she's introducing them to each other and they're having a ball and they'll never come back because it's so much better, the party that they got going on there. So bless
And
them.
yeah, I'll just one other comment. When you said MLK, Um, she used to be a church school secretary, so she would see him at potlucks and they would sit together and she said they would laugh over whose spoon is that, whose fork is that. And her other amazing exchange, because she was in Chicago, she was American, um, was Helen Keller was there because everybody would go to the Art Institute. And she said she's never experienced anything before or since where a person who did not have sight or hearing came and met them all and did this. She said her hands were so incredibly knowing to have Helen Keller's hands on her face was mind blowing. Thank you, Yael.
Wow. From Helen to Helen, we are blessed. Thank you, Suzanne, for all the Helens that you brought into the circle and into our lives. Um, and you mentioned quite a few things that I'm wondering who should we go to, but Eva, I know you have a very limited time with us, so maybe we go to you before you go away.
Thank you. Before also the night takes over and you won't be able to see me. I'm in south of France and we haven't arrived home yet. So I stopped on the side of the road next to this beautiful tree in nature to hold this call. And it's such an honor and so sacred to be in this space today, especially today, the longest day of the year. And what comes forward for me, and it's a question I've been sitting with for a while, is like what happened when my truth is challenged. And for me, truth is embodied. My truth is when I feel it in my body, and it's an embodied experience of like, oh, this feels true here and now. But what happens when someone else has a different story and a different truth, and I go into the dismiss or irrational belief that if I listen to that truth, then my truth is challenged and I'm denied existence. And I feel like a lot of what's happening in the world right now is about my truth is more worthy than your truth, or my truth is more true than your truth. And I deeply believe in multiple truth, actually. I believe there's as many truths as there are human beings on earth. And if we would hold that multiple truth in our heart, you know, like multiple truth in one heart, not one in the same, that would be the same frequency, but one heart that we from the oneness to which we all belong. And somehow we're fighting over our place, not understanding that our place is inherent in our being. And I've been like leading towards this solstice and in this travel in these small villages in south of France. And I was just in Sainte Marie de la Mer, where it is said that Mary Magdalene came from Palestine to this village. And it's just like the sacredness and the rituals that fills in the air in these places just reminded me that my truth is in the sacredness of and the ritual of what we hold together as the feminine, not necessarily as female body, but as the feminine, and especially sitting in a world that has forgotten this feminine way and where we are heading towards, and I can feel it in my bone. I feel this is my truth. My truth is the sacredness of the feminine path. And in this coming week, I have an event that is called I'm Calling Men to Peace. Not to fix man, not because women are better, but because we are whole when we are together. And the truth is, there's no one gender better than another. There's no one gender that is wiser than another. There's no identity that is better than another. And I feel like that's the truth that I hold in my heart. And that's the truth that we are being weaving together towards this new era. And this new era is coming. The new era where we are honoring our truth without denying the truth of the other. And we are honoring our being in the sacredness and in the really the sacredness of peace. Because I feel like peace has become such a bad word with everything that's happening. And I've been just like before this, I was participating in several political conferences around peace in Palestine and Israel, and I just feel like we have betrayed the sacredness of the word peace, and we need to come back to peace as an action, peace as a choice, peace as a capacity. And that for me is a truth that I live daily in my body and in the bodies that I encounter and with the people that I work with or the people that I guide. And I feel like this is the truth I want to believe in, but I don't want to impose it on you. And so find your truth. And I'll end with that. That's a sentence that André Gide wrote in the 1920, in his book. And he said, after you read this book, please throw it away and find your own. And I find this is our guidance. It's like if we have found the wisdom of our truth, that's great, we can share it. But let the other find their own truth, and it's going to be in their own pace, and it's not going to be the same as ours. And having that wisdom is hard because the wisdom is, I will let you find your own path, even though I'm seeing that the path that you're taking is not necessarily the right one I would want for you. And that's really the deep truth for me right now. So I thank you. I'm honored to be with you. And you're going to see my face fading, but I'm still here. But I just don't have a light here. Thank you. Blessed
Thank
be.
you.
Happy solstice.
Thank you so much, Eva. So beautiful. Yes, let us not tell others to follow us, but let each of us follow our own heart. And speaking of heart and Glastonbury, Vav, over to you. Wonder what you have to share with us.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you, Helen, DeAnna, and Catherine for your opening. Helen, Susanne was just a force. She was just a force. She was I think the best way I could describe her, not having spent time in her presence, but being with her and knowing her quite deeply in my heart. I think that's the best way to put it. But she was like a bulldozer with cushions around it because she just got there and just gave her truth in the most forceful but gentle way. I can't describe, I haven't got a better word for it, but yes. I had a chat with her about art sometime, and she said, just draw a bloody line. Just made me hoot with laughter. Yes, sorry. I diverse. Yeah, truth. So how do we find our truth in the face of conflict? And that's a question that I've been mulling about since this was posed some time ago. And I started to think about it, and I thought about conflict, and there are so many different descriptions of conflict. There is war, there's political war, there's religion, there is personal conflicts, there's people-to-people conflicts, there's all sorts of conflicts of starvation and hunger and all sorts. So how do we hold our truth within it? And I think it's a question that could be rattled about forever and never have any answer to it. And when we start thinking about, what's happened with colonization and communities being broken up and political differences that have caused so much of the conflict that we're feeling in the world just now, to me, it makes me ashamed to be a human, because it's only humans who behave in this ridiculous way. Animals are just much more clear. We eat, we fuck, we procreate, we die, and we hold our space while we do it. So why are people having so much confusion and conflict? And, I put this to my husband to try and make sense of what I was thinking. And one of the things he said was democracy needs dissent, but democracy only comes if people are living within society and can make that democratic decision to dissent. If you don't have a voice, and so many people in this world don't have a voice, then they're not in a position to do that. And yeah, it starts to really get to me. But personally, my truth, and forgive me, I'll tell a story which I'm sure I may have said before. But some years ago, my identity was stolen. My identity was taken by a chap who was involved in a financial thing. I had a leasehold thing for a piece of equipment. And this man seemed, kosher and worked for the company that I had leased the machinery from. And unknown to me, he had taken my identity along with several other people and had managed to run up £270,000, not in my name, but because he was using all my details. And he'd done this to several people, and it had, worked up to millions. I got a call one day from a chap who said to me, I believe you've just bought a new Nissan Navara. And I said, no, I haven't. And he said, but I've got the documentation here with your signature on it. I said, then take it to the police because it's not my signature. And the long and short of it was, it went to the police. The police asked me to be a witness, and this man was arrested, and it went to High Court. Now, I went to High Court as the chief witness, and I don't know if anybody's ever been in High Court, but it's a bloody scary place to be, even if you're a victim. And the police had gone through my statement with me and said, you will be taken apart with our barrister, so just keep reading your statement, refer to your statement, but be prepared to be here for several days because the defendant's prosecutor will try to shred your integrity. So I went into the witness box, and I was a nervous wreck, and had my specs, and got my specs, and I was all wibbly wobbly, and I had my statement in front of me, and I was shaking, and I was all a bit so they asked a few questions to lead into this, and I was jittering and referring to my thing, and just made a complete pillock of myself. And that was our barrister, and he stepped down, and the prosecution, the other barrister came up, and I was ready to be shredded because I realized how useless I had been with my statement. But this chap came up, and he didn't look at me. He looked at the jury, and he started to pace up and down in front of the witness box, addressing the jury. And he started by saying, So, Dr. Simon, would I be right in saying that this is what you thought, but what actually happened was, and would it be fair to say that if you understood this wrong, but what you actually wanted was this? And he continued like this, and my hackles went up, and my father's words rang in my ears, because my father was a well-respected Scotsman who was a very honourable man. And he always said to me as a child, with truth as your sword, you will win all battles. And so this was irritating me, that this man was pacing up and down with this act, not even looking at me, looking at the jury. And eventually he turned and he said, so would it be accurate for me to say that what you actually did was, da 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 da? And at that point, I took off my specs and I threw them down on the witness box along with my statement and said, no, that wouldn't be accurate to say that. In fact, it would be a complete lie. At which point, the whole of the jury went, oh. The judge stopped writing and peered over his specs. And this chap stood in front of me, and he was like a goldfish, didn't know what to say. And he said, no more questions. So the court of clerk came across and said, you may step down. And I said, where do I need to go? He said, well, you can leave. And I said, how can I leave? I was told I'd be here for several days. He said, no, you can leave. So as I walked out from the court, sort of completely confused by this, the policewoman that I'd been dealing with just threw her arms around me and gave me a ginormous hug and said, how did you do that? And I said, I don't know what I've done. She said, you've just broken that man. You've just completely shredded his argument with your words of truth. And it was one of these cold moments where I couldn't really conceive what had happened. But it was that truth was my sword, and I just cut through this man's argument. And I think these barristers play a game. There are different, if anybody's done law, different themes that they use to break down witnesses. And to me, that was typical of the farce that we're seeing happening in politics and on our television screens, and with all this fake news. And it's all myth and rubbish. It's all just made up stories to try and confuse and to manipulate. Animals don't do that. Animals don't do that. I'm sorry, animals just don't do that. Their truth is what they live on a daily basis. They either like you or they bite you. They accept you or they kick you or they walk away. And I can't stop feeling ashamed to be human and to be burdened with the human condition that we all have, which is this need to be seen to be part of society, this need to be seen to be strong, upholding person. If we could just be ourselves and speak from our hearts and not from this facade that we think is how the public want to see us. So I think truth starts within us. It starts with us being able to be honest with ourselves and being able to be honest about what we do wrong. Because when we see at the moment anything on television, if something goes wrong, you blame somebody else. If the political problems arise at the moment, all we hear are politicians saying, oh, but it was the previous government, it's their fault, we're just picking up the pieces from what they did wrong. Why can't people just stand up and own their own mistakes? Because that's the only way our souls learn, is to own our mistakes, hold our hands up and go, my God, I'm sorry, and learn from it and move forward. I always talk about my bees, and my bees did say that Susanne is running campaigns on the other side. So I love it. But the bees are very honest. If I go into them in a mood that says I'm less than honest or less than happy or less than benevolent towards them, then I'll get stung. And, they don't take fools gladly. And I really feel that we need to start thinking about being very honest with ourselves, you know. Down to even how we look. It's the simplest things, you know. There's an advert keeps popping up on my screens, when I'm working, saying, if you want to know you're overweight, do this. Look in the bloody mirror. I know I'm overweight. There's nothing secretive about it. Let's be honest with what we see. I'm old. I've got wrinkles. I'm not young and pert and beautiful anymore. But hopefully I can be honest. And so I think, our honesty starts within our own hearts, and being honest to friends, being honest to family, and talking our truth. Sometimes my husband accuses me of dishing out honesty on the end of a shovel, but I think at least people know what they get. What they see is what you get. So I've said enough. Blessed be.
Thank you, Vav. I just want to contradict you a bit and say you are beautiful. You may be old, you may be wrinkled, but you are definitely beautiful. And if you can't see it, then maybe you need different specs.
Well, somebody said once that the wrinkles are your map of your life. So yeah, I've traveled well.
Amen. Thank you. And Mona, I saw you kind of nodding a few times when Vav was talking, so I'm wondering what's coming through you.
I think actually I need some time to think because you just said everything I want.
All right.
Let me be with myself for a minute.
Okay. Jaminnia, do you feel ready to share? Jaminnia, I just remind you, is Ia's granddaughter. Yeah, I feel her so much and so present with us and with Susanne. So, Jaminnia, I don't know what you're going to say, but take us wherever wherever the circle wants to take us through you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here again. It's very nice. Trying to get y'all can hear me? I'm trying to make sure my microphone is
We hear
there. It
you
is.
fine.
The
Yeah.
cord wasn't moving. I think from the prompts, the question that has stayed with me is how to trace your truth internally. And I've got, if I do say so myself, a great process for that. I have this notebook. It's actually on my list to review it again in the next few days, where I interview myself. I say, who are you? What do you like? What do you love? What do you hate? If you could do anything and fear and money weren't an issue, what would you do? Things like that. I do this every time I feel lost. I do it every 5 years. I don't know the tempo, the speed, but I do it every so often. And I started keeping it all in one notebook, the same notebook, because it has been very helpful for me to see that most of the things that are most important don't change. So my values don't change. My gifts don't change. What I want to give to the world doesn't really change. But what does, and that is my truth, right? Those things are the core of me. That is my truth. Those are the things that are unchanging. And we think about truth as being unchanging, but it's also fluid. What does change is the expression of that truth. And so the circumstances around me change, life changes. The amount of time I have changes, the amount of money I have changes, the amount of resources I have change, my job changes, the world changes, the opportunities that are available change. But what I have to offer and what I want to give and what I feel driven by doesn't change. And so it's just about adapting the unchanging parts of me to my surroundings. And so, for me, it doesn't matter if there's conflict. It doesn't matter if the world is upside down. What I have to give is still the same. how I give it has to change to adapt to what the world needs. But what I have to give isn't going to change. I learned very early that you only have so much energy and you only have so much time. And so if you try to drive in all the lanes, you're going to expend yourself and burn out very quickly. But if you know your lane, I know my lane is books, I know my lane is education, I know my lane is teaching, then it doesn't matter what the challenge is, it doesn't matter what the conflict is. The question for me is always, well, what can I give to this moment? Here's my pot of gifts. Here's my pot of knowing. How can I apply it to this situation? And for me, that's how I weather the storm. Now, the hardest storm is, I think this is a lifelong lesson for me, is there will always be someone who doesn't like you, who feels threatened by your expression of your truth, who feels like you're making them small. And I've had to learn to not care about that as much as I care about my truth. And I think it was Eva who said there are as many ways to be as there are humans on the planet. So I get to be me. I get to have that. And I think those people who detract and feel offended are the loudest. But I've been fortunate to receive quieter but more important voices who say, I didn't know that I could be anything until I saw you do whatever you wanted to do without worrying about what everyone else was doing. And like I said, those people are much quieter and you may never know. Like I said, I feel very fortunate. I've probably only heard it once or twice, but I hold it in higher esteem than all of the people who feel jealous, threatened, small, because I decided and I live my truth without worrying about trying to live theirs at the same time. We can only do what is ours to do. So yeah, I think that's all I've got. I hope it was succinct. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jaminnia. Our elders here in Alaska tell us release all expectations. And I used to think it's releasing my expectations from others or other people, other things. But I found the hardest is to actually release the expectations that are being thrown at me. And yeah, I find that when I manage to do that and stand at the heart of the storm, as we say in Hebrew, not just the eye of the storm, but the heart of the storm, which is actually my heart. Yeah, that core is really helpful in not trying to prove that I'm not what people are saying about me, kind of like Vav's barrister, if you will, but just by being what I am. It kind of the what I'm not falls and kind of just doesn't apply to me. When I was trying to justify or show that I'm not, or deem the threat that some people felt, that wasn't working. So yeah, thank you for that.
And if I
And
may
yeah.
add, releasing your own expectations too is something I meant to say. Again, I have this core, I know who I am, and I can expect how I'm going to express that. But then the world changes, the circumstances change, and I have to become a different kind of librarian. For example, I have to become a different kind of person in the face of these challenges. Maybe someone I never thought I'd be, someone I never thought I would meet in the mirror. But at the core, I'm still the same. So there are definitely the external expectations, but I think some of the biggest fights are even our own expectations because we think, oh, I'm this kind of person, so I should behave this way. Mm-hmm. No, you can be this kind of person and behave a different way. You can express it differently. And if you never express it at all, maybe you're not that kind of person. That hurts.
Or
Okay,
maybe you should just get courage to express something that you didn't dare express before.
Exactly. That's where that answer usually leads. Yeah. The hidden truth. Ooh, fun.
And one more thing on that note is that I felt your grandmother and Suzanne, and I think that's maybe why I'm doing this work with elders and wisdom keepers, are people that I feel can kind of penetrate our bullshit and see the core. Even if I'm lost, they can see me for what I am, for not just who I am, for what I am, and reflect it back to me. And as Malidoma Some said, um, when a gift isn't blessed, it becomes a curse. And so I'm kind of calling you all out, wisdom keepers, I know that you are people that can do that can recognize the gift in your other selves. And it is so important because, yeah, it just like Vav's dad, I'm sorry, I'm bringing him in again, but as Eva said, we're calling man for peace. So Vav's dad, with truth as your sword, you can win any battle. And so let us bless the gift that we recognize in others so that they can carry that sword even when we're gone. Thank you. And Catherine, I'm wondering if the time is ripe for you to share.
Kia ora. I've thought a lot just from listening to a situation that's been going on in my life for some time now, and it's quite layered. It goes back years, but also recent situations seem to be echoing something from my past, which keeps bringing a situation back into my present like a boomerang. It just won't let go of me. And I'm in a state of like, okay, so this is partly it. My identity, like Jaminnia was talking about, I know my core, that seems to always be. It's always there. Even though things around me change, in my core, I know who I am. I have come to ask the question, who am I really lately? And it's about what value do I give to the world and how is that expressing through me? At one point in my life, I thought I knew my path. I thought I knew it. It was really clear. And then things happened and I've become confused as to what my path now is. For Māori, we call that kaupapa. And ka'u means to grasp something, and papa is like connection. Our word for Mother Earth is papa tuanuku. And so we might think of connection as something you're deeply grounded in, something so close, something so fundamental. The Earth Mother, well, can't get more fundamental than that. So what is my kaupapa for my life now? Funny, I pulled a card this morning. I don't know if people can see. The card is legacy. And I thought at one point in my life that my legacy was about activism and frontline defender activism, to the point that I've actually been jailed and I have a conviction for some activism work that I've done. It was justified and it was righteous. So I'm like, yeah, my truth is the colonizers' law was wrong and my law was correct. My law that I stand on my ancestors to have a voice for was correct. So I'm all good with that. But now that I'm pulling back from activism, and the opportunities for that are in a way fewer than they were when I was younger, for example, because of my physical age and my family circumstances and other things. I am not as active in that frontline activism as I once was. So it feels like I'm having to look for another truth about where I ought to be expressing myself in the world. And that's a scary thing. And I am all up for admitting the fear around that. Because it's like I want to reach out to others and ask the question, is anyone else going through this? Is this like a existential midlife? I don't want to call it a crisis, but some people have called this stage in our life a crisis. And where is the end of it? I'm asking myself, where is the end of it? Someone, who was it that said, look for the light? Maybe it was Eva. She said, look for the light in things. And I'm looking for any glimmer of light that will show me, point to me a direction that this is your kaupapa. Maybe it's something completely different. I've got a new job now, and it's all consuming, and it's a steep learning curve for someone, in my mid-50s, having to relearn. That's all part of the who am I? Am I having to reinvent myself? Am I having to change my focus? And I'm with all these new people, and they've got all new skills, and I'm having to catch up. I used to feel like I was the one in the lead, and I was inducting and helping and assisting and supporting others to learn what I knew and to do what things that I did. And now it's all flipped. It's done a big 180 on me. And I'm now the student having to master all new sorts of things. And I tell you, it's a big challenge. It's really a big challenge. So that's my confession. That's my truth. But I do hold fast to the faith that this thing about truth being nuanced, it's not always black and white. If there's a perspective on truth that's a tough truth to hear, then I know, because truth is nuanced, there has to be a truth in that situation that is soft and easy to feel and to hear, and it gives hope, and there's something beautiful about it as well as something harsh about it. There's got to be both at the same time. There just has to be. And I hold fast to that, because there has to be an end to this chronic feeling of, who am I? I'm discovering that all over again. And I can't chronically be in a place of like just searching and seeking and looking chronically. Boy, that takes a lot of energy. So I'm looking forward to finding myself again, I think. And it's okay to grieve about any loss of my identity and having to rediscover myself, because I feel like I'm in good company. There's a lot of people going through that right now. And bless us all who are going through that, because, boy, it's a tough one. So, yeah, best of luck to all of us. If any of us are on that path, I'm with you. I hope you're with me too. It's okay to be there, and let's keep supporting one another in that journey. And may we find something of a new anchor for us very soon, so we can be helpful to others in their journeys. It's important work. It's important work. Kia ora.
Totally with you, Catherine, as I hope you know. And to me, that I also am having some conflicts in my personal life. And what I found with this teaching, learning, because I've been a teacher, and I always felt that I'm a good teacher because I'm actually learning from my students how to teach them. And so I was always like, I'm a good teacher because I'm a good student. But recently, I came across someone who has conflict with me and doesn't want to teach me. And I'm realizing one of my gifts is that I can choose to learn even when someone doesn't want to teach me. And that is such like I don't know, like a little kind of like, ooh, I get to choose. You don't get to decide about me, so they can pour a lot of like negative things, which I can see the complexity and the hurt it comes from. And so I'm able to have compassion where, the go-to is kind of like blame back and fight or justify or like apologize from like a place of, and I'm able to see, yeah, I've made mistakes, they've made mistakes, but there's actually other things here, and I'm learning so much that they never intended for me to learn. But that's one thing I know at my core, that I am like, I'm gifted with this ability that I think teaching and learning is actually kind of like one motion, even though we're used to looking at it as like an either or. But I'm like, yeah, I can go with this flow, with this motion, with this yin yang that is actually the same kind of thing. And I get to dance in this painful situation, which, yeah, is the place of pain and crisis, and actually crisis being, or pain being the beginning of birth, possibly, is something that I'm learning more and more, and maybe bringing or teaching more and more too. I don't know, but I know for myself that this is something that works for me. So I'm offering it and letting go of it, and yeah, feel your own. And with that, Muna, I'm wondering if you're ready.
Hi, good evening. It's pretty much almost midnight here, so um, so thank you for your words, everyone. Um, I don't know if it's this time or it's always been like this, but tonight I noticed how like each one is completing the other one. There's this creation of a web between the women speaking, and I think that's really beautiful, like one would say something and then depending on each other, and I really appreciate that, being part of the truth that's present in this virtual circle. Virtual square, really, but let's call it a circle. And I am really trying, like also something about you, Yael, saying in the beginning, if what you wanted to say has been said, then maybe you don't need to say it. And I was like, oops, okay, so what am I gonna say? And so here I am, just being spontaneous, so forgive me for this. And the interesting part for me with observing everyone speaking and listening really deeply to the words spoken is that it seems like hearing, Eva speaking of this very certain level of existence, and then Vav bringing a closer level of existence to this physical body, and then like weaving between these two was really interesting, because it actually is all about that. I think it's about which level of binoculars you're putting on your eyes and which side you're looking from. Are we looking from the very simple human experience, the more elaborate human experience, or between that and the unseen, or totally, like out there where there's everything's okay, and there's, all these conflicts and all these wars and all this starvation, everything's okay, At some level it is there, but we accept that as a reality of our living in this level that we're living in this body, in this reality. That's a whole different story. That doesn't make it okay at this level. But it's good to remember these two. And really honestly looking at that playing itself out in our circle, in our evening tonight, or morning, here we are. Afternoon and our morning, and no, it's night. So yeah. So this is one bit that I felt really precious to share at this, just remembering that we can look at reality from so many circles, from so many angles, and so many levels. It's not only the angles, but it's also the levels. It's so complicated, right? It's like, where do you look? Where do you see the thing? And I have to admit that for me, my month has been rich with conflict, incredible conflict, besides the conflict, that I'm living in. And I don't like to call it conflict, what's happening here in Palestine. I rather call it an occupation than a conflict. But except for this reality, there has been like conflict in my personal life. So I had the advantage of experiencing it firsthand, really going through a difficult time. And I think that my one guiding line that kept me going all the time was the sentence, basically said from by Banki Yutaku, to was Zen master. It goes, it's not a sentence, it's a really short phrase. It goes, don't side with yourself. So how do I not side with myself when I'm in conflict? And how do I really look at everything, and be compassionate to all sides that are there? Along with that, really knowing the limits of where it's okay and where it's not okay. I had Vav, I love that you keep talking about animals. I have my story with animals too. I'm sorry if I'm too long. Yeah, just give me a a signal that I have to cut it through. But I moved into this house where there's a garden. I would go to the garden and there's like big ant colony out there that I love. I was like, good morning, hi, how are you? Good day, and seeing them. But then they decided to come and visit me in my house, and I don't really like that. I don't really like when ants come into my house. I tried that once. One time I was like, okay, well, welcome, and then they would be walking on me when I'm sleeping. I was like, no, I don't do that. So the issue was how to set my limits. It was a very amazing lesson in how to set limits. So basically, every day I would wake up in the morning, open the door, and really sweep all the big ants out and put them in the garden, and I would clean the entrance. And then the next morning, what do you know? I opened the door and the ants are shrinking. And it was like a amazing period because every morning some ant wakes up. Oh, there's a house. Let me check what's going on in there. I'm like, just rediscover my house day in and day out. I think in the fifth day I had 100 ants in the house, and still I was like, no way, no way. I'm having a conversation with the ants. And on the 10th day, I woke up, or 12th day, or something like that. I opened the door and there was no ant. They actually got my message. I was just like, again and again, being persistent, lovingly, really lovingly. It's like, no, you guys, this is my limit. You don't cross my limit. I love you, but find your way outside. And it actually worked. It was amazing for me to really also learn about limits. This is like, we have limits. I have my limit. This is like, no, I love you, but I need my comfort zone as well. So that was really great experience. And I'm very grateful for the ants. Every once in a while, I find one ant walking the house, and I'm just like, now already in my hand. I'm like, "Hey, goodbye." And that's what we're friends. So this is my little tiny story of ants. And along with that, you know, this was a joyful story. Another experience that I had was yesterday, actually, for a solstice, because every year, particularly in the solstice, I get messages from the water. The water's been begging to be, not begging, but giving me orders, basically,
Mona,
to
you're
be seen
breaking
and
up a
heard.
bit. Can you get, I don't know, closer to the mic or something? Because I didn't hear who you're getting
Yeah,
messages from.
the water. I was getting I'm getting orders from the water to be caring for the water, cleaning the water. So yesterday I went with my friend, and we stood to the closest point where I could see Gaza, like really like as close as we could get. Stood there in the sea and just pressed the water there, allowing the pain to be flushing us. So there's also that level of it. Just really be with the pain, allow it to be in. And I really think that ultimately it's about coming into ourselves and taking it in, allowing it to transform and breathing it out of the world. I think that this thing that we keep doing, which is breathe in the light and breathe out the pain, is not necessarily good. Sometimes you need to let in the pain and allow it to transform and bring out also blessing to the world. So this is what I want to say tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Ants and Water. And DeAnna, I'm wondering if you can share before we go to the next ripple.
I would be glad to, but I'm wondering if we have enough time. We're going to do a whole hour and we just have 40 minutes. So I'm open to either sharing or foregoing if we need time for our biggest circle.
I'll let your heart decide.
Well, I'll
What
speak.
is your truth?
We want to hear you, DeAnna.
Thank you, Muna. I'll speak briefly. A story comes up that I may have shared here before, but it's a very personal story about how I was guided to stand my truth. So some years ago, there's a group of Israelis living here in California that we socialized, and they were gonna have a gathering for the Independence Day of Israel. And I said I'm not coming because I'm not celebrating the Independence Day of Israel because it's a day of tragedy for the Palestinian people, and I can't, in good conscience, celebrate when for another people this is a day of tragedy. And there was a lot of, yakita speaking and talking and stuff going on. So I went into meditation and I came to the meeting that we were having. And I said, look, I'm not celebrating the Independence Day of Israel. If you want me to leave your group, to leave this community, because of that, you'll have to come up and say it. You'll have to say your truth. This is my truth. You'll have to say loud and clear and honestly, you cannot be part of us if this is what you believe. And I will not like it. I will be hurt, but I will leave. But if you don't come out and say we want you out, then you have to accept me. It's your choice, but you have to be with your truth, telling me that my truth is not welcome to coincide with yours. Otherwise, we have to coincide and you have to stop talking and you have to stop gossiping and you have to stop resisting and then we can coexist. So I just want to offer that. It was something that stayed with me for a long time because no one said we want you to leave. And things shifted since then dramatically in how we are able to accept each other. So this was a moment of guidance towards being in my truth and inviting other people to be in theirs. Thank you.
Thank you for that reminder, DeAnna, that it's not about us agreeing with all of us all the time, but about allowing differences and different truths to be heard. Thank you. And with that, dear audience, we're gonna open it up and for you to share with us. I just wanted maybe as an in-between ripples to share the picture of Susanne, which I think you can see now, all of you, right? And our website yeah. Can you see Susanne and the bird which also I think speaks to what Muna was talking about, the micro and the micro, and how do I not side with myself and just to be able to see it from the bird's perspective. So thank you to Susanne also. And yeah, please raise your hand, participants, if you're willing to share. And I'll remove spotlights. Yes, Elena, I see your hand, so try to unmute if you can.
Hello. Hi. Wow, so much. I feel like I could comment about every single thing I've heard, but kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, I feel like about myself, but I think it really fits with talking about the womb at the beginning. So I've got a tumor in my breast and we're all going to a chemical menopause. So it's like there's a lot going on in my life right now, and I'm going to lose my hair. So there's things like losing part of my femininity. But also, I admire, sorry, I need to just look at your name. Jaminnia saying about her feeling very secure in who she is. But I feel like this thing in me, I don't like to use the word, is telling me to change my life. So I'm a teacher, but I really struggle with it at the moment because I know in my heart that teaching is wrong. Well, education is wrong. I work with very small children, and I feel like this illness is I'm not living my truth, basically. But I do, what is happening to me is I speak light language and I do light language movements, and I know that I need to do something new, but I'm really struggling to know how to use my light language and what to do next. So I really resonated with what Catherine was saying. Like, I don't feel I know who I am, or maybe never did. And I grew up in Glastonbury, and funnily enough, I hated Glastonbury. I probably still have some animosity towards Glastonbury because there's a side to it's very spiritual, but there's also a drug abuse and local people quite disenfranchised. There isn't jobs, there isn't much to do. So for me, it's like I have conflict with the place, and one of the reasons why I don't live there anymore. And spirituality as well was something that I kind of really was turned off from for a long time. So yeah, but I just wanted to sort of say that a lot of what everyone was talking about was very what I'm going through, and I think it's something that's happening in a lot of women or a lot of people are going through this, where we're having a death because there is going to be a new awakening. And that's what's keeping me going right now, is like, I know this thing is come for a reason, but then something better will come along, but I'm just struggling to know what it is. But thank you, what you said, DeAnna, about the room. It will come at the right time, but I know I'm just in that point where I don't know at the moment what it is. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elena, for trusting us with this sharing, with this vulnerability and your beautiful heart that I think we all can feel in the tears that are the healing potion of the world. As Muna was talking about the ocean and allowing the pain to touch us and flow through us. So thank you for allowing that. And again, I'm reminded of Susanne and of Ia, who have had some major physical challenges, and they both were asking what are you here to teach me? What is this here to gift into my life? So I don't know if that's helpful. If it isn't, then of course toss it.
No, it is.
But yeah, thank you so
the
much.
answer hasn't come yet, but thank you for the space.
Thank you. And Gloria, if you can unmute. And share?
Hello. Thank you for the space and for all the shares. I want to acknowledge something that is very alive today in me. My truth at this moment is that I want to honor my father. Here I am in Peru. It's Father's Day. And I remember him. He died 20 years ago, more or less. But he was my mother and my father at the same time because my mother was far. And I want to honor that truth that for many people, but it's not very common, I think, to consider the father figure as a mother too. And for me, that was the case. So this morning I was going through my grief because he died of cancer and I was with him. I was honoring that I was allowed to be with him until the last day of his life. And now I feel more like playful after grieving, after some tears out. And I want to go out to the park and I want to play with the trees. And yeah, and tomorrow will change. And I'm very grateful to have this space to honor also the solstice, winter solstice here. Yeah, because elements of nature are my family, my great companionship. I honor them. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for reminding us of that. And as Elena, you were saying about the femininity that you feel that you are maybe losing, I feel that I know women who had their uterus removed and their femininity is intact, and it's much harder, but it is possible to go beyond the physical. And Gloria, when you were talking about your father holding the feminine, even though he was male, and Eva calling men for peace, and Vav's father like showing up in the circle through her stories, and this being Father's Day, and Anita, for instance, one of our wisdom keepers, is celebrating that. And so just to be able to hold that beyond the physical, and also in Hebrew we say, and also in indigenous traditions here in Alaska, that when we die, we are actually more free because we're free from this limited human form of just being in one place at one time. And then we go back to free form, to endless form, and we can be with the elements of nature. And maybe your father is with you when you meet with trees and with water, with fire, with all there is, with the minerals. So thank you for that. And Lisa, if you can unmute and share with us, please.
Yes. Greetings. It's Liza.
Eliza, sorry.
Thank you so much. I was not planning to speak, but I was so moved by Elena's share. I also have walked with life-threatening illness for most of my life, and it's been one of my greatest teachers. And what rose in me from the circle that led me to share is the remembering of how when we go through the calamities in our lives, the illness, the loss, the disasters, both individually and collectively, to speak to the question about how do we find truth in the midst of all that is going on in the world, that there's a way that everything unessential is stripped. And that's one of the great challenges of illness, is how much, or loss, or any dramatic change in our life, or the dramatic loss and change in the world, that all the superficial shit is stripped. And it's a painful stripping, right? Nobody would sign up for this teacher. but that when that is stripped, what's left is the true core of ourselves, of our lives collectively, of who we are as the soul of humanity, as the soul of the world, as the soul of the cosmos, that kernel of the true nature is what is shining when all of everything else that we rely on is stripped away. And I just felt really compelled to offer that in the circle. And thank you all. This has been a very precious gathering place for me. I think this is my second or third year coming. And I'm just deeply, deeply grateful for this circle. So thank you all.
What a gift, Liza. Thank you so much for sharing, for listening to the circle as it was calling you to share. And I am urging others who may feel that to be brave like Liza and offer. I'll look at gallery to see if we have any more hands. Vav. Oh.
I just wanted to, and it sort of come whilst I've been listening to everybody else. And the thing that made me think was witch trials. I don't know why witch trials would come up for me now, but I guess we all, as females, hold a little witchy bit within us. And the thought of people being accused of witchcraft when they're probably healers and midwives and people who were innocents, and their truth wasn't heard. I think that's a really hard place to sit with. In Wales, there's the myth of Rhiannon, and Rhiannon's it's a long story, but Rhiannon birthed a child as the queen. Long-awaited pregnancy, took years to come, and eventually birthed a child. And after a very long labour, she slept, and the midwives also slept, and the child disappeared in the morning. So rather than the midwives being accused of negligence, they decided to kill a hound puppy and leave the blood and the bones all over the queen, and just tell the king that she had eaten the baby. And the court wanted to put her to death, and the king said he loved her. He wouldn't put her to death, but he would punish her anyway. And she went through the punishment for years and years, and that's sort of beside the point. But it's the same thing, that being accused of doing something that you know in your heart you didn't do must be a dreadful place to sit. And so I think looking at ancestors, although we're in Solstice and it's a place of growth and wonderfulness, I think just holding on to that, as women, we all have that little DNA bit, that little witchy bit within us, that somewhere in our history, somewhere in our DNA, way in the past, there is that little guilt or that little place where we have not been able to stand up and say, this is wrong. You know, these people accusing people of witchcraft or accusing witches to the point that they need to be put to death, I think is somewhere now as women we should all just stand up and be counted. And maybe it's because I think in my history I was probably burnt at a stake somewhere. So I think I want the support now. So come on, women. We all need to back up the witches. Thank you. I just think it came from somewhere.
Thank you, Vav. Maybe that's a whole circle that we need to do around that one day, because yeah. And Kat, if you want to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. We can't see you though.
Okay, I'm trying to get the settings all worked up. I'm sorry. So I can relate to what just about everyone has spoken of. There we go, turning it on to.
Kat,
Oh,
we
okay.
don't have a lot
It
of
won't
time,
let
so
me
yeah,
come
just
onto
to.
video. So I'm just going to say that in my journey over the last few years, there has been a great stripping. There has been confrontation with illness on all levels and clearing of that and reprocessing of it, as Catherine was saying, with the boomerang effect, and like each time seeing how am I responding and dealing with this now. And I lost everything over the last couple of years and have been traveling. And I'm meeting so many women who are in the same boat, who are, living in their vehicles and traveling all over. And we're all being drawn to these sacred places and meeting and connecting and sharing. And, maybe we'll see each other again, maybe we won't, but there is this collective movement. And there are so many women who are going through the same thing of just losing their old identity, their body, their family, their relationships, etc., not knowing. And I think that's where the power is, because we're in the void of not knowing, where everything is possible. And to be okay with not knowing has been a learning for me lately, and to knowing that the guidance may just come spur of the moment. And it's not a constant thread like it used to be, but it's more about being receptive and focused and coherent, if that makes any sense, of being focused in the heart and just being that love, walking through the great mystery, and no matter what is happening, just reflecting love as much as possible, whether it's to others or to myself, whatever I'm going through. But to know, I hope this is reassuring for some folks, that it's like the puzzle got thrown out and a new puzzle has been given to us, but we can't see the picture, and we all carry a piece. And to be okay with not knowing, to sit in that fear, to sit in that rage or grief or whatever probably all of the above is what we're all feeling. And until we can, be okay with the not knowing, then that's when the knowing will start coming in. At least that's my truth. And it's been miraculous, truly miraculous and synchronistic, what has been coming through once I let go of, I need to know, I need to figure it out, to float in the mystery and know that if I'm leading by my heart and my spirit, then no matter what I've encountered and what I will encounter, I will be guided, and I am walking in love. And that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Katz. Thank you so much for this. You made me kind of see, and I know some women here in the circle also don't have a permanent home, or are in this situation, and suddenly I saw maybe that's Mother Earth's way of calling her daughters to different power points or acupuncture points, where she's summoning you all as maybe our representatives, as maybe some of the good witchcraft that Vav was just naming a moment before you came on. And as you're talking about the not knowing and the gifts of the not knowing, the new does not come from knowing. When we have, our next generation in us, we don't know what that person is going to be like. It's not like, oh yeah, Uncle Edward, yeah, it's like it's someone totally new that never existed before, and it's from the unknown that we get the new. So I think we need some new stuff because the old ways we've been doing things in this mainstream culture is not leading us in a very good way. So welcoming the new puzzle. And Tasha, please share with us.
Thank you, everybody, for everything. Vav, you brought up a thing for me, and I very often am good with understanding that my truth and other truths are not necessarily the same thing. And I know I have experiences that other people would say, that never happened, that couldn't be. And I rarely dismiss, or I try not to. However, there's also the reverse experience of having someone else have their truth be an seriously untrue thing about me, an accusation of things not done. And that was where I ran up against not being able to continue to live side by side with your truth involves someone who you think is me and is not. And the difficulty of finding when to walk away. I think, DeAnna, you addressed that at a level that is where there is space to hold both. And when does the space to hold both vanish? And I think that's when we get into an essential truth, and what has been also very freeing for me in a lot of ways and propelled me out of a situation, which is wonderful, that I was just reconfronted with yesterday for the first time in a couple of years. But I think speaks to that essence of, yes, we all can have our own truth. And then where is the borderline between truths that cannot at least exist side by side? And how do we negotiate that? And it happens on the personal level, which was my experience. And Vav, you're talking about on a catastrophic social level that often has greedy or other greed and fear motivations behind it, that is not necessarily about the individual at all, but about taking their land or taking their prominence in society or something. So I guess it's a thing that I'm sitting with and trying to renegotiate again. And that balance of honoring someone else's truth, but when their truth dismisses and dishonors you, then how to work through that. And I wish I had a really good answer for what that was, but I don't. And maybe putting that into the circle helps to bring that answer forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. As I mentioned, I'm kind of dealing with a conflict that sounds like kind of like along the lines of what you described. And to me, the space that used to be quite intimate, where I could see the other truth, to me, it didn't vanish, but expanded, because now I need more of a distance to be able to see that truth without letting it, hurt me. And so it's back kind of like Muna's ants, where it's like, okay, this is my boundary and this is the space that I need, and you can be there, and I can respect that you see sides of me that are maybe horrible to you. And I need some distance from that to be able to see that and get the true proportion of it and respect that for you that might be triggering and bringing a lot of hurt. But again, how do I keep myself safe to me, peace is where both sides are safe, and sometimes there needs to be more of a distance for both sides to be safe. Yeah. But if anyone else has something that is coming, because I feel this is a very good question, please gift us with your wisdom. Tatiana, do I see your hand raised, or am I wrong?
Good morning, Queen Ayukung, Alaska, Miwik down. I thank you first of all, Lord, for bringing us beautiful women together. And I thank you, Yael, to include me. Being true when you're suppressed so much for not being told you don't, no, or you don't. Kind of take its toll on a person. And being told that from many, many different directions in all ways, can shut a person out. And I can understand the possibilities of suicide when suicide comes. Any person that is in this world, whether a child, teenager, adult, is beautiful, created in its beautiful way. And I shouldn't say must, because that instinct does not become until you truthfully from within know that you are created beautifully. But you in your being needs to have that from within. But when other people are doing this, our being can easily be shut down. I love this. I love you, beautiful women. I'm so amazed because I'm awakening. I've been awakening for quite a while, and I've been going through so much process of being in both worlds of civilization and being indigenous as well, and being forced to, well, I shouldn't, it's very important to be educated, even if you don't want to. I was kind of forced into deeply, I have a tendency to hear from my grandmother. She says, you must learn. You must learn. Learn now. Later on, you are going to use that to bring others. Okay. I've been really blessed because I think that I've been suppressed enough, experienced enough, and it's, never ever going to be enough because we all learn, especially even for me right now. You can hear these, you must do this, you must do that, you must do this. But when one does not get it from within here and have the knowledge of with it from within, sometimes being told you're not enough, you're not enough. Okay, from within, when one chooses to decide to be, help me, Lord, please, to know the you from within and from without. I mean, from out here. If those two come together and collide and be there and embrace each other, imagine the moments of impact. But you have to have that from within, and I'm learning to do that, and it's been a road. I thank you so much, Yael, especially from when we had the women's retreat. I've been to so many different types of healing programs for so long, for the longest time. I thought I was, sorry, I thought I was wrong. I thought I was broken. I thought I didn't belong because so many, from a little child, from a little girl, even growing up, and even during those times, I was a rebellious woman. I was a girl then, but I was rebellious. Don't tell me what to do. I'll go do this myself. And I do it, you know, without eyes seeing me do it. And I try not to show it. But when I prove to myself in my being that it can be done, I tried showing it out to these naysayers. And then because I did that, see, I was just a child. I hope I'm not getting too loud. I was just a child and I didn't even understand that my voice mattered. And I tried approaching different people in many different places. Okay, I've always had my grandma with me from within. I did not know that she taught me as a little girl. I was raised by her up until I turned school age and I had to be forced to go to school. Well, I enjoyed it in a way too, but it took away my freedom. My grandma lived out in the wilderness with, up and they had no electricity, no nothing. That was my world. I had no idea that that I was being hands-on trained to. I had to even learn from within that both worlds can be possible. And I understood what Grandma said. You must learn this. You are going to have children one day. You learn as much as you can right now so you could teach your children. And then even during those times, it became like, okay, I was processing the learning part of things every so often because I was busy still. I raised 6 kids and had so many other kids that were involved with my children that so we became like a big family all the time, or not all the time when we can, but our family was there. But I thank you all so much for this openness of having to know I'm a native. Native has been shot down, shot literally. I mean, I feel us indigenous people are the worst ones being shut down by the government saying that we're not important. People in general, I shouldn't have a indigenous thing or a white thing. That's wrong. Because even if you are white, does not mean you don't belong. Because I'm not trying to be mean. It's just that when Columbus came to here and I was already here, I was very upset that just because he put it on a paper that he was first time in Alaska. Oh, and I shouldn't say Alaska, America.
Tatiana.
Thank you.
Tatiana, I'm sorry,
Yes.
we're running out of time. Thank you so much for being with us, and of course you belong. Thank you for
I thank
knowing
you so
that
much.
you belong.
I really appreciate all you women. I'm still doing a lot of learning and still.
Thank you.
I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate that. And God
Koyana.
bless your journey.
And with that, our time is up. So, Vav, if you can help us close with the blessing.
So many truths shared tonight. I think it's a beautiful evening. And maybe all we need to do is to let the light within us shine brightly so that the world can see who we are. Just allow that light to shine. And the brighter our light shines, the more it illuminates the space for everybody else. And if everybody shines their light, we're as good as a solstice every day. I'd like to sing a little blessing. And I have to say, my voice has been described as a goose farting in the fog, but bear with me because I think this probably covers a lot of what we have done tonight. So, blessed this earth, blessed this ground, blessed this prayer that we pass around, blessed this fire, blessed this flame, blessed this hearth that we kindle again, blessed this hearth that we kindle again. May the long time shut sun shine upon us. May all love surround us. And may the light that shines within you guide you all the way home. Blessed be.
Blessed be, beautiful. Thank you. Toda rabba. See you at the equinox. Oh, and we do welcome feedbacks on how this circle was without the banquet rooms. So if you want to write to us your experience, your suggestions, this is a co-creation. You are our co-creators. Any encounter is a co-creation, and this was a beautiful one. So I'm going to put my email in the chat, and please continue there and have a blessed rest of your weekend, day, whatever life has planned for you.
Kia ora, thank you, everybody. Thank you for
Kia
all the
ora.
sharing.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.